Picture the end of the world. You imagine empty cities, silent highways, a lone survivor with a rifle, counting bullets in the dark. But the real answer is far stranger because the deadliest version of that story wouldn't happen in a city at all. It would happen 50,000 years ago, and the people living through it would be the most dangerous survivors this planet has ever produced. Your ancestors. Let's run the experiment. Imagine a strange sickness moves through the ancient world. It doesn't kill, it rewrites. The infected stop speaking, they stop sleeping. They move in the dark toward any sound, any warmth, any living thing. They feel no pain. They do not stop. Now drop that plague into a modern apartment building and it burns through in an afternoon. But drop it into the Ice Age and something very different happens. Because the humans there were not soft. Think about who they were. They lived outside in the open every single day of their lives. They walked 20 kilometers before lunch. They hunted animals 10 times their weight with nothing but sharpened wood and patience. Their bodies were lean, scarred, and built for one thing above all others: endurance. You have heard the phrase survival of the fittest. But fitness in the ancient world didn't mean muscle. It meant the ability to keep going when everything wanted you dead. And on that measure, no creature on Earth outperformed the early human. Consider the way your ancestors actually hunted. Anthropologists call it persistence hunting. A human cannot outrun a deer in a sprint, but a human can chase that deer for hours under a burning sun while the animal overheats and collapses. The biologist Daniel Lieberman at Harvard spent years studying why the human body is shaped the way it is, and his answer was unsettling. You are not built to fight. You are built to pursue. Long legs, springy tendons, millions of sweat glands cooling you while your prey cooks inside its own skin. Now flip that. In a zombie world, the thing that never tires is usually the monster. But 50,000 years ago, the thing that never tired was the human. Your ancestor could walk a shambling infected creature into exhaustion. It could not. But endurance alone doesn't win a war. So ask yourself a harder question. What actually kept early humans alive when the world tried to erase them? The answer is not the spear. It's the group. Humans are almost helpless alone. A single person in the wild is a snack, but humans almost never lived alone. They lived in tight, bonded bands, and those bands were held together by something invisible and powerful: trust. The psychologist Robin Dunbar discovered something remarkable when he studied the size of human social groups. He found a number, roughly 150, that keeps appearing across history, from ancient villages to modern armies to the address book in your phone. It's the maximum number of real relationships your brain can hold, and it exists because your ancestors survived in units exactly that size, small enough to know everyone, large enough to defend everyone. Do you see what that means for the outbreak? The infected have numbers, but no plan. They cannot coordinate. They cannot warn each other. They cannot set a trap or guard a child or agree to hold a line at the mouth of a cave. Your ancestors could do all of it in a single glance. And they had already survived the apocalypse before. That's the part we forget. The Ice Age was an extinction event in slow motion. Volcanic winters, vanishing herds, rival human species pushing into the same shrinking land. The archaeologist Curtis Marian studied caves on the coast of South Africa and argued that when the world turned hostile, small bands of humans clung to the shoreline, harvested shellfish, and simply refused to die out. They passed through a bottleneck so narrow that every person alive today may descend from a few thousand survivors. You are the children of people who already won an apocalypse. So how would they fight? Not the way you imagine. Not with a last stand in a burning fort. They would do what they always did. They would move. Early humans were nomads by design. They did not defend territory. They read it. They knew which way the wind carried a scent, where the water pooled, where the land pinched into a canyon a person could hold with 3 others and a pile of stones. To a modern mind, running looks like losing. To your ancestors, running was a weapon. You let the mindless thing follow you into the terrain you chose, and then the terrain does the killing. And they had fire. Think about what fire actually meant to an early human. It was warmth, yes, but it was also a wall. Nothing wild wanted to walk into flame. The anthropologist Polly Wiesner studied the firelight conversations of the Juhuanzi people of the Kalahari, and she found that the campfire was more than protection. It was where stories were told, where plans were made, where a scattered group became a single mind. At night, the fire was a fortress with no walls, and inside its glow, humans did the one thing the infected never could. They talked. Language may be the deadliest weapon your species ever invented. It let one person's discovery become everyone's knowledge. One hunter learns that the infected turn toward sound, and by nightfall the whole band knows to move in silence. One child notices they can't climb, and suddenly every sleeping spot is a ledge above the ground. A zombie plague spreads by biting one body at a time. Human knowledge spreads by speaking to 100 minds at once. Which one do you think wins? There's another advantage, and it's hiding inside you right now: your immune system. The infected in our story are, biologically, a disease trying to spread. And ancient humans were extraordinary at surviving disease, not because they were clean, but because they were tough. They lived shoulder to shoulder with animals, parasites, and rot. Every generation was a filter. The ones with weak defenses died young and left no children. The ones who lived passed down immune systems forged in constant war. You carry the results of that war in your blood. Genes inherited from Neanderthals, threaded into your DNA during ancient encounters, still shape how your body fights infection today. Your ancestors were not fragile. They were survivors of 1,000 plagues you never had to meet. So let's watch the outbreak unfold their way. Night 1. The sickness appears. A band notices one of their own has changed, gone silent, gone wrong. They don't panic the way a city would, because they have seen death up close their entire lives. They act, they separate, they move to high ground and light the fire. Day 2. Scouts read the land. They find the infected are slow, clumsy, drawn to noise. Within hours, that knowledge belongs to everyone. The children are taught the new rules the same way they're taught which berries kill. Day 5. The band has turned the world into a trap. They lure the infected toward a ravine. They use the thing they were born to do, endurance, to walk the tireless dead into places they cannot climb out of. No heroics, no wasted lives, just patience, coordination, and terrain. This is how humans fought everything: cave bears, rival tribes, the Ice Age itself. Christopher Boehm, an anthropologist who spent his career studying how early humans cooperated, argued that our ancestors survived precisely because they could suppress the selfish instinct and act as one body with one purpose. The lone hero is a modern myth. The real ancient survival strategy was almost the opposite. Nobody wins alone, everybody guards everybody. The group is the weapon. And here's the twist you might not have seen coming. The zombie in every story we tell is a warning about us. It is the fear of becoming mindless, isolated, cut off from the people around us. A body that moves but no longer belongs to anyone. But that fear is modern. Your ancestors were almost never alone. They ate together, slept together, faced death together. The idea of a single person surrounded by a hostile world, trusting no one, hoarding supplies behind a locked door, that is not ancient survival. That is a picture of now. So which world is really more vulnerable to the apocalypse? The one where 100 people know each other's names and would die to protect one another? Or the one where you can live for years in the same building as a stranger and never learn their face? The infected win when people are alone. Your ancestors made sure they never were. And that instinct never left you. It's why an empty house feels wrong at night. It's why you lower your voice near a sleeping child. Why a crowd makes you feel safe and isolation makes you uneasy. Why the sound of other people breathing in the dark can calm a fear you can't even name. That is not weakness. That is 50,000 years of survival wisdom still running quietly under your skin. So picture the end of the world again. Not empty cities, not a lone survivor counting bullets. Picture a fire on a hill and around it, a small circle of people who know exactly who they are and exactly who they'd die for. That is what beat the last apocalypse, and it is still the only thing that ever will.